Hey everybody, BK Adams here. This video is going to cover how darkness works in the Mighty Protector Superhero RPG. What I've got here is a map of a Gothic cathedral, and I've got a superhero that I randomly rolled and a villain that I randomly rolled, or mostly randomly rolled. And the villain's got darkness powers, and we'll have a mock battle and see how it goes. So I'm just saying the villain has tracked our hero down to this cathedral, and we'll say this is we're not in round one yet. This is going to be a surprise round. So our villain is outside the cathedral and gets his 14-inch of movement. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 to open the door. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Comes jogging in here. He's got his darkness field, which is a 5-inch area effect. All these bystanders, or at least a couple here, are going to notice this. And they're going to be freaked out. So they're surprised. So we'll just go ahead and go to round one. Let's look at our initiative. We've got the villain's got super speed, so he's got to spend power for that. So in phase 0, he spends his power. He drops to 50 power, but now he's got his super speed. He goes on 10. He will delay that because he's kind of he's a villain who's overconfident. So he's going to let these bystanders scream and run out of the cathedral. That's our bystanders. He doesn't care if they leave. Like I said, he's overconfident. But actually, I guess technically, our hero should go next. She goes on 9. Now, the drone and Starlux's duplicate and the other drone are not here yet, so ignore them. So she can spend. She's an interesting character. Let's see. Let's look at her. She's got devitalization ray, weakness detection that she can use at range. She's got a laser. She can summon a drone, and that takes a phase. It can either be a movement or an action. She can also duplicate herself, and that does take an action as well as power. So does summoning the drone. So what she'll do, she'll use her movement to summon her drone. That's 2 power, and 2 power per hour, or for every hour after the first. So she'll spend 4 power. She'll have her duplicate and her drone show up, but neither of those things will be able to do anything. So I've got, and a duplicate appears in a space right next to the character that is the main character. So we'll just have her appear here, and her real drone also must appear next to her, and we'll have the drone appear there. Actually, let's have the drone appear behind her and kind of at the bottom. The drone is very small, so there's a chance our villain might not notice. Our villain's pretty far away. I'll go ahead and count that out. The drone is 23 squares away from the villain, and if we look at the drone sheet, the drone has size change smaller with a profile 1/6, so we need to multiply 23 times 6 to get the actual range. So that's 138. If we look at the range table on here somewhere, I'll find it. Okay, so 138, that is a -5 to perception. So if we look at our villain, he's got a 10 or less perception roll. He has no heightened senses. So 10 or less -5, he's got to roll a 5 or less to notice the drone. Let's go ahead and clear the roller. There's a 14. So he doesn't notice the drone. The drone is still hidden behind our hero. So that's good for the hero. He doesn't. The villain doesn't know the drone is there yet. So let's go ahead and gray out the hero and the drone, who can't do anything because it just got summoned, as well as the clone of our hero, who also can't do anything, and her drone, which she can also summon, is not actually there yet. So one thing I should point out about duplication, which our hero has, it's kind of unique in the game as far as abilities go, because, well, I'll just read what it says. It says the character's BC and ability caps, average damage cap, gear BCs, etc. are all determined from the number of character points the character has left after paying for the duplication ability and its modifiers. So if we look at our hero sheet, I had to do something a little tricky. So this is a standard level hero, which is 150 points, but she's got duplication. She's got 15 points in duplication. So that 15 points lowers her base to 135 for purposes of the caps. So like her ability cap is 27 instead of 30, her damage cap is 13 instead of 15, and so on and so forth. So if we look back at our combat record sheet, we've got our villain with super speed. He's been delaying, and he'll go ahead and go at some point. I'm being a little vague here. So he let the bystanders go. Now he's going to move up. He's not sneaking. He's got a 14-inch movement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. His darkness field goes with him, 5-inch diameter field, and it reduces sense levels by 2 levels. So our hero cannot see anything, cannot hear anything, cannot smell anything. Our drone, on the other hand, has analytical sight. So the drone's analytical sight is reduced to basic level of sight. So the drone can actually see the villain, just not very well. So that's the villain's movement. Now for his action, he's going to use his grapnel. He's going to try and grapnel the clone. Now the clone has basically no chance, but there's always a chance to see something if you roll a crit. But in order to roll a crit, you have to roll a 1 first. So here's her chance. So she rolls a 3, so close but not good enough. So if we go back to acquiring targets chart, she did not get a critical success, so basically she failed, which is this dash. It says the character perceives nothing and therefore can't attack the target and suffers a defense penalty of -3 or -6 depending on the situation. So if we look at 4.7.2, it's surprise and immobile targets. Well, she's not surprised and she's not immobile, which is normally a +6. So let's go back to that. So she suffers a defense penalty of -3. Our villain, he's got a grapnel attack, which is 14 or less, and our hero's got a 4 physical defense. So that's normally would be a 10 or less, not counting range, but our hero's at a -3 on defense. So that 10 or less becomes a 13 or less. And let's look at the range. So she is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So -1 for range. So he needs to roll a 12 or less to hit her. Let's roll a 12 or less. He rolls a 4. So he hits her with his grapnel, which has an 8 break point. And this is still round 1, so she can't actually do anything. He's already used his movement. So let's go back to the combat record sheet. So he used his phase 10. Let's grade out. So now we'll just give him his phase 6 because he's got super speed. So he has her attached. He'll just reel her in. He's strong enough to lift her, and he'll just yank her in right next to him. And that's his entire movement. And for his action, so she's at a -3 defense. So she's got a 1 defense. He's got a 18 or less claw, so it's a 17 or less. He will try and claw her twice. So that 17 becomes a 14. So he needs 2 14 rolls to hit her. So here's his first roll. It's a 14. He hits. He does the die 6 plus 7 with his claw. He does 11 damage to her. Now this is the clone who has no protection at all. So she just took 11 damage. She can roll a 7 of it. It drops her power to 64. She takes 4 hits. She drops to 19 hits. His claws are sharp, so they don't do any knockback. So that's our villain on phase 6. Everybody's gone. That can go on round 1, so now it's round 2. And our high initiative is a 9. for the villain. So he's got the duplicate. He's just going to do the same thing. He's going to attack her twice. And actually, I forgot she's also grappled, which also reduces her defense by 3. So he's really got 2 attacks at 17 or less. So here's his first attack. A 19, well, he misses. Here's the roll for his second attack, a 6, that will hit. Here's the damage roll, it's 11 again. Our hero's duplicate can roll with 6 of that 11, dropping her power to 58. And she takes 5 more hits, dropping from 19 to 14 hits. So she's still conscious. She's getting carved up by this villain though. That's phase 9. Next up we have the real hero on 5 and her drone also on 5. So they will go next. And our hero has a slightly better agility. Our villain is not sneaking, but she can't see anything through him. So what she wants to do is she whispers to her drone to basically get on top of her head. I'm not going to put her, we'll just say she's on top of her, and sort of hold onto her head, kind of like she's a helmet. Now the drone has got analytical sight that's also telescopic. Now that does cost 1 power per hour, so I'm going to go ahead and reduce its power from 62 to 61. It's also flying. That's another point of power, dropping from 61 to 60. So it moves up and does that. Our hero will delay so that they can both go on, well, they're both on 5, so it doesn't really matter. Our hero does have telepathy with verbal transmission and the use senses modifier, which is a psychic bond just with her drone. Now she can turn that on, but I believe it takes an action. So I've gone ahead and looked up telepathy, and it says each attempt to establish telepathic contact takes an action. So she will go ahead and do that. Telepathy also has a PR of 1 per hour per individual being contacted. So go ahead and modify her power. Actually, I forgot. So she had to spend 4 power that first round to summon the drone and also to do the duplication. So that would have dropped her to 67 power. Now she has to spend 1 power on her telepathy, but she's got a telepathic link with her drone, and so it's got use senses. So now she can see through the drone, and because it's on her head like a helmet, I'll say that's good enough where she can actually see the villain. That took an action, so she can't actually attack. She could move, and maybe she'll do that. Let's see. She could try and move behind this altar up here. So she'll do that. The drone is on top of her head, acting like a sort of like a scope that lets her see the villain. We'll say she kneels down below this altar, and she's got heavy cover from that. Okay, so that's... But our drone also goes on 5. So let's see. So the drone has got to make a... Well, let's see. With its sight reduced to basic, it gets a roll. Now the drone, I believe, has an 11 or less intelligence save, yeah. But it does have telescopic, so it's not going to have any range penalties. So let's go ahead and roll that. So it actually failed by 2. So if we check chart, we get the little squiggly thing, which says... The character senses that someone or something is around, but they can't locate, identify, or target it, and suffers a penalty of -3 to defend against it. They may still attack the target they failed to identify, but at a -6 penalty to hit. So, if we look back at the drone, it's got a laser with a 17 or less chance to hit. At -6, that drops to 11. The villain's got a 1 defense, so a 10 or less. So really... He has a 50-50 shot, so he needs to roll a 10 or less. Rolls a 20. This might be a fumble. So here's the confirming roll. A 5, so it is not a fumble. It's just a miss. The laser costs 2 power, so our little drone guy loses another 2 power. Drops from 60 to 58 power. So both of these guys have gone on 5. Let's go ahead and gray them out. So now it's phase 4. Now the clone is over here. If I can bring the map up. She is grabbed, or she's been grappled by the bad guy. Now what she could do is she could just target her square that she's standing on and take a -6 to hit that. But she gets a +6 because it's an area effect. She normally has a 17 or less to chance to hit. But I think what she'll do first is she'll summon her drone. That costs 2 power. Let's go ahead and mark the power off. So now she drops from 58 to 56 power, but now her drone just showed up. It's going to show up next to her. And the drone can't do anything, but at least it's there. That's her movement. For her action, she'll go ahead and I take this back. I think she wants to do her action first. She wants to attack. She wants to attack the square she's in. So with area effects and darkness field, she gets a roll. Here's her perception roll. She's got to roll a 1 to have a chance at it being a critical. So she rolls a 10, so it is not going to be a critical. So here's her roll to hit with her devitalization ray area effect attack. So she rolls a 16. So she was at a -6 to hit because if we look at the chart again, it's the dash one. It's this part. She's not attacking the target because she has no idea where he is. But she can attack the area effect. So she was trying to just attack the square she's standing in, but she's at a -6, but she's at a +6. In fact, I'm just going to say whatever she rolled, she had to roll a 1 for this to basically work. So it scatters by 15. So I brought up the scatter table. So the margin of failure, she rolled a 16, she needed a 1. The distance was 1, so really she only missed by 1. So now it is a random determination of where the area effect goes. So she put it on her square, so we'll say 1 is the square in front of her, on top of her, and we'll just go counterclockwise. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go back to the roller, roll a die 8. So I roll 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's actually a good location. So her area effect is going to hit the square to the right of the villain, and her paralysis ray, or not paralysis, her devitalization ray is 2 die 8 in a 5-inch area effect, and that costs her 3 power. So let's go ahead and mark her power off. Now this is the duplicate of the hero. So our power just dropped to 53. Let's go back to the roller. She does, well, let's see. So it's here. The villain has got to be able to jump 2 squares to get out of this area effect. He's got a 1 defense, so he needs a 10 -6. He needs to roll 4 or less to jump out of it. Rolls an 11, so he's in the same square. He's going to be affected by her power drain. So it's 2 die 8, and here's the roll. So 14, so she actually rolled really well. Let's go back to the combat record sheet. So our villain, actually I may have forgotten for him to, yeah I did. So he had to spend another 2 power for his super speed. Dropping him from 50 to 48 power. Now he just lost 14 power, so he's going to drop from 48 to 34 power, which is quite a big chunk. So he didn't like that. That was the duplicate of our hero on 4. Now on 3, the clone, who is right next to her. This is the the drone clone, right? So. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. So that was her attack, and then for her movement, she summons the drone, and also I'm forgetting she's in the area effect, so she also takes 2 die 8. So she loses 10 more power. Let's go to the sheet. So she drops from 53 to 43, but still she dropped the villain 14 power, which is really good. And she summoned her clone. So the clone will go ahead and spend 1 power for flight and 1 power for its heightened senses. Okay, mark off the clone. So now the villain gets to go again. on phase 2. So he's going to try and just finish off the duplicate of our hero. So he's got a +6 to hit her. She's got a 4 defense, so his base chance with his claws is 18. That's going to go to a 20. He'll attack her twice, making that 217. So here's the first roll is an 8. That's going to hit. Now he does a die 6 + 7. He rolls 10. So she's getting pretty beat up. So she can only roll with 4 of that, dropping her from 43 to 39 power. She takes 6 more hit points, dropping from 14 to 8. So she's still conscious. Here's his second slash. He needs to roll a 17 or less. He rolls an 11. He hits. His damage is 11. This is probably going to finish her off. So she can roll a 3 of it, dropping from 39 to 36. She takes 8 more hit points, dropping her to 0. So she just got knocked out. The duplicate and the duplicate's clone both will disappear, so they're all grayed out. Now what I forgot to do is the main hero's power should be 64 because she had to spend another 2 power on that duplicate, but now the duplicate's gone, so she doesn't have to worry about it. So now it is round 3, and our villain gets to go again. He goes on 11. And hey, it worked the first time, so let's go ahead and remove these guys from the board. But our hero is basically taking cover behind this altar, so he's got to move over there. He's got a 14-inch movement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He gets there, the darkness follows him. Now our hero can see him. That's the villain's movement. He can see her perfectly. She gets no cover. And he's going to see the drone too, because it's kind of obvious. He's going to try and grapnel her with his action. She has a 4 defense, but because she can't see him, now she does get a chance to see him again. She's got to roll a 1. Actually, I'm sorry. She can see him through her drone's sight, which is basic, and that's good enough to see, so she doesn't have to make a perception roll. She does see him, but that 19 was her roll to sort of know where he's at. If we go back to the chart, she failed it, but it wasn't a critical fail. So it's the squiggly thing which says the character senses that someone or something is around, but they can't locate, identify, or target it, and they suffer a penalty of -3 to defend against it, and they can also attack at a -6. So her 4 defense drops to a 1 defense, and he's got a 14 or less chance with his grapnel that will become a 13 or less. He has no range penalties, so he needs a 13 or less to grapnel her. So he rolls a 17, and actually I've been forgetting his grapnel will cost 1 power, which I believe he's used at least twice. So let's go ahead and fix that. So he would have got 33, he jumps to 32 power. So he missed her with his grapnel, which she is grateful for. So that's his move and his action on 11. But, oh, and I forgot, he's also got to keep spending 2 power for his super speed. So he would have done that at the beginning. So he goes again on 8. So this time he's got his full move and his full action. He could just move onto her and attack her. So I think rather than grapneling her, that's what he'll do. Yeah, he just moves up next to her. They're all in this blackness. But because she's got this telepathic link that has the use senses modifier, the drone is hanging onto her head like a helmet. She can actually see him, and so can the drone. But he doesn't know that. So he comes up to her. She is at a -3 defense, so her defense drops from a 4 to a 1. He's got an 18 or less claw. That means he's got a 15 or less chance to hit her. No, I'm sorry, a 17 or less chance. He'll attack her twice, 214. Here we go, and he's a 14 or 14. So he rolls an 8, he hits, his damage is 13, he rolled really well. So she has not been really damaged yet, so she just took 13 damage, so she can roll 6 of it. That drops her power to 58. She takes 7 hits, dropping to 16 hits, which is not more than half. Half of 23 is 12, and 23 minus 12 is that 11? So yeah, so 16 is more than 11. So she's not knocked out, but she took a big chunk of hit points. And here's his second attack. He's got to roll a 14 or less. He rolls a 2, so he hits her again. This time he rolls less. He rolls 8. She can roll with 5 of it. That drops her 53, and her 16 hit points drop to 13. So she's still conscious. That was his 8. He moved. He attacked twice, and now our hero can go. In fact, the drone goes first on 4. So let's give the drone a chance to see. So he failed his roll, so he's at a, let me look it up again. He failed, but he's got a basic chance to see, so yeah, he's got a -6 to hit. So the drone's got a 17 or less chance, -6 is 11. The villain's got a 1 defense, so here's the roll. A 1, well heck, it might be a crit. So here's the confirming roll. If it's a 1 through 10, it is a crit. A 6, that is a crit, so let's see what kind of crit it is. Number 20, so that's anything. Well, since she's kind of high, not really high, but she's on these steps, and the drone is on her head, I'm going to say that's a headshot. So the drone's got a laser. It does a die 10 plus 1. Here's the roll. So he rolled pretty good. He rolled an 8, plus 1 is 9. So let's bring up the villain's sheet. He also has no kind of protection. He just took 9. Let's look at the combat record sheet. The villain just took 9 damage from this drone. He can roll with 3 of it, dropping to 27. That's 6 damage, but it's in the head, so it's doubled. So 6 damage doubled becomes 12. That drops him to 4 hit points. That's more than half his hit points. And so yeah, so he took 12. 12 was more than 8, so he's knocked out. Now, lasers don't do knockback. Our plucky little drone got lucky with a crit, and even at a -6 and hit him in the head. It was just lucky. So our hero can go now, because darkness is a voluntary ability. So because darkness control is a voluntary ability, it says voluntary abilities can be activated and deactivated at will while the character is conscious, but deactivate automatically if the character is knocked unconscious. Now, if we look at the villain's sheet, he's got darkness control. Now it has a PR of 0, but it is not continual. It's voluntary. So the darkness drops. She can see him normally. He's just laying there. She's going to go over there. Well, let's look at her sheet real quick. He's unconscious. She would have a +6 to punch him. She's just going to punch him for a die 6 plus 1. Let's see. She doesn't want to kill him. She's not sure what he's at, but he was looking like he was trying to kill her. He'll just, she will punch him. It's pretty much automatic unless she rolls a 20. Here's her roll. Oh, close, a 19, but that's good enough. She hits him. She's going to do a die 6. I'll reset this thing. +1. She rolls a 4. That's 5. That's actually going to knock our villain to 0. So let's see. He can't roll with it. He was at 4. He just took 5 hit points. So he drops to 0. His power drops to 26. Now, she is a military scout, so she would know first aid. She will be spending some time trying to stop his bleeding because she's a hero and her motivation is justice. So this was a close fight, and if not for a lucky roll by a plucky little drone, our hero probably would have lost this fight. I hope you guys liked the video. Again, the main thing, now the target in darkness, that's pretty explanatory on the chart. What's a little more difficult in this case is area effects with a darkness, and but I think I did that right. I hope you guys liked the video, and I'll catch you next time.